네, 잠시 안내 말씀 드리겠습니다.
Ladies and gentlemen, may I have your attention, please? We will begin Biokorea Invest Fair 2022 from 1:40 p.m. Participants, please enter the hall and please be seated. This event is in accordance with the government measures against COVID-19. So, ladies and gentlemen, please make sure to keep social distancing and put your masks on. And today's event not only is being held at offline, but also is live streamed online. And you can later on download materials on the official website later. And in order for the smooth proceeding of today's event, if you have your cell phones, please make sure to put your cell phones on silent or vibrant mode. Today's event, there will be Korean to English simultaneous interpreting. Please set channel 1 for Korean and channel 2 for English. After the event, please leave the receiver on your table. So we will shortly begin the event at 1:40.
네, 여러분 안녕하십니까?
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Bio Invest Fair 2022. Thank you for being here today. I am Park Sun-young, today's MC. Good to see you all. Thank you. Thank you for being here today, paying attention to biohealthcare industry despite your busy schedule. So before we begin the official sessions, I would like to deliver my sincere gratitude. And also, a warm welcome to everyone who were participating today's event via online. Today's event, we will look forward to pharmaceutical and bio and medical healthcare industries. Based on their excellent technology and vision, they will seek for information sharing and advanced technology. And today is the last day of the Invest Fair, and please stay seated until the end to see the cutting edge technology that our Korean companies have. And before we begin, I would like to mention that in order to prevent COVID-19 measures, it is a shame that not a lot of people were able to be here, but it is being live streamed here, and there are speakers and participants, among others, who abide by the social distancing measures, and also they are making sure to keep their masks on. So I would like to inform you that before we begin. Well, then let's begin the first session, which is session 5, the new drug developing platforms licensing strategy. The first is Mogam Life Science Institute, presented by President Kim Sun. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome President Kim Sun with a warm hand. Good to see you all. I am President Kim. Well, I myself is a scholar and I'm a professor at SNU. And here I am representing Mogam Institute for Biomedical Research. And today I'll talk about technology. And I am personally a lay person to investment, but nowadays there are a lot of interesting things going on. And throughout the recent 2 to 3 years of research at my lab, I would like to share some information from Mogam. So everyone knows that developing a new medicine is really difficult. Can AI help developing new medicine? And everyone would say yes. But if you think of it, like you have to work on AI, the computers, or pharmaceuticals and chemistry, among other studies, which is really difficult. So when converging two different studies is really difficult, and if imagine collaborating 5 different studies is really difficult. But if you take a look at the recent news, Amazon or Google or even Amazon, it includes Merck and Pfizer, so they're collaborating. So this is really happening. So last year, when I saw this article on Nature, it says the candidate was created in partnership with Extensia, and it reads: traditional discovery takes 4 to 5 years, and they cut the time down to 8 months, which is very significant. So when you take a look at the research and contract information written on and you found on the research, and if you take a look at a more recent one, there's J.P. Morgan's healthcare research. I wouldn't say there's a lot of information, but still you can see some data here. And AI development, in terms of investment or contract, you do see actual results here. Well, then, why do people talk about artificial intelligence-based new drug development? There are some vectors. Here, we have a lot of chemical data accumulated, and there was a huge development of like biology and informatics. So they are all contained here. And also, there was a high increase of computer technology capacity, like links, among others. There are a lot of accumulated data to see gene information. So you might have heard of this AlphaFold 2. So AlphaFold 2 solved the secret of the DNA. So that was the one of the biggest achievements of artificial intelligence. I would say this was one, and every so many people don't know that PDB is a database based one. But however, all despite all the massive investment in the past, it hadn't shown a lot of growth. So why are we lacking this information? When you talk about artificial intelligence, people concentrate on like big data too, and technology is really important. People say, but when it comes to AlphaFold too, through deep learning, so it showed a dramatic performance improvement through the latest deep learning technology. And if you take a look at the graph here, this is a protein projection data. So I wouldn't say there was a drastic increase some year, like between 2006 to 2016, but AlphaFold and AlphaFold 2 made a significant leap. And the secret behind here is amino collision. And this gentleman is David Baker, and there was a Korean postdoc researcher and got designated a scientific achiever and currently working at SNU. So nowadays technology is really important. So if you take a look at the mid part, not sure if my laser point is working. If you take a look at the middle one, there's Evo Former, which is the key of alpha fold. So this is a transformer. So you must have heard of the term transformer. So what is Evo? Here at the portmanteau, the Evo represents evolution. So this is a good masterpiece of applying this technology. So how important is this? The right picture is what we monitored based on our equipment, and the left one is what we saw with our actual eyes. So not a big difference. So equipments probably has some room for error, and you use computer to analyze, and you use your eyes to analyze, and we can't tell which is which. So which means they're both very close to each other. And now I'll briefly talk about small molecules. So there are decreasing room for conventional ones, but now biologics is increasing more. And from 2021, the rate is getting more flat and flat, as many people might have projected. And when AlphaFold technology was adapted, and what happened to scaffold technology, we would never know. Because like figuring out the secret of protein constructor was our dream, and actually nowadays, thanks to this technology, we're approaching it. So when it comes to small molecule technology, technically, well, I do not have enough knowledge to talk about industrial or economic perspectives, but just on this. Is this technology good enough to provide results to experts? And am going to use some emojis, a smiley face or my sad face, to say yes or no. So, question one, here comes a smiley face. The first question is, like, can artificial intelligence help the compound synthesis process? So, based on the data that I have, can I compound synthesis process? So, in that sense, 3 years ago, AlphaGo technology was already used. And here comes a research paper that says planning chemical synthesis with deep neural networks and symbolic AI. If you visit the Merck website, you can see that they released this. So a big pharmaceutical giant like Merck already announced their achievement like this. So this chemistry is making some synthesis. So even if synthesis is possible, it has to be done in an efficient way. So here is our reaction condition recommendation. So accordingly, chemical compounding. Like when you take a look at this field, AI is showing a significant growth. Well, then, well, that was about when there exists or wanted chemistry. But, well, then, can artificial intelligence help you design the desired compound? And all the past projects were able, thanks to computer technology, but I would say take a neutral approach to this question. But about 2 to 3 years ago, there was an article, Deep Learning Enables Rapid. So the term rapid here is really important. It goes rapid identification of potent DDR1 kinase inhibitors. So if you take a look at this chart, well, my laser point isn't working properly. Well, that if you set a desired target and if use a DDR1 candidate, if you generate it and prioritize them and compound those with high priorities and measure the time spent on it, it only consumed 46 days. Isn't it amazing? So it's a prototype, but so it doesn't necessarily guarantee for further results, but still significant. Well, then, if we did make a chemical compound, well, then it has to be attached to protein, right? Well, then we have to know the protein information. So then, how and how far can I know protein's information, which is the target of the drug? And you have to suggest it, and we, based on AlphaFold's impact, we will be able to see the alpha impact very soon. Well, then, if we know the information of protein and if we can come up with chemical compounds, then we have to set a target, right? Is it possible to predict the target of a drug? Well, we have to go a long, long way then. A protein has to be compounded, but we still have to conduct research a lot in this field. Well, then, let's suppose a chemical compound was attached to protein, but that does not end there because genes do not work alone. They interact with other genes in a very complex way. And the cells as a whole, like, how are you going to find out the efficacy? Well, during animal tests or clinical tests, there needs a lot of research, and the United States here, the National Institute of Health, they have conducted some research here, and despite the difficulties, the United States, they have been conducting research for a long period of time. And so, what kind of like results are going to happen in genes? So many people are projecting this field. So if there's a change in genes, and here's a biological network change, which is shown in this image, and when they are applied to drugs and show results, then are they really efficacious or safe? Figuring that out will also require a lot of time. And here comes pharmacokinetics. And this, we people have to work a long way on this too. And according to Stanford's research, they said that there was a lot of improvement. Next, toxicity is a problem. So, toxicity issue is a never-ending story, and people still have to go walk a long way toward this. And there's a lot of research being conducted worldwide, and there will be a lot of progress in the future. Next question: is there a lot of drugs in the world? And is it possible for AI to recommend proper drug to patients? I would say the answer is neutral. So, based on gene information or other information, based on all the information, AIs would recommend drugs. But about 2 years ago, there was this research. Cancer is a disease occurred from gene change. So you can define patients by gene changes. Then, when cancer patients have their gene change, then would it be possible to recommend a drug based on the gene change? It could be meaningful. And if you take a look at this science research paper, in order to avoid antibiotics side effects, what kind of recommendation should be made? Can be found from this research paper. Next issue is COVID-19. So COVID-19, when it was a very aggressive disease some years ago in the UK, because people were dying so many people were losing their lives, so they conducted collaboration research, and they wanted to save lives. And what kind of measures should they take? And they found out that there was baricitinib. This medicine was originally rheumatoid arthritis treatment, but they chose to use this for COVID-19 treatment to decrease its toxicity. And next is new drug development. This is a tough question. So, is there an efficient way to handle data related to new drug development? According to recent bodies of research, here it says extending the small molecule similarity principle to all levels of biology with the chemical checker. And there are 25 different aspects, 25 different approaches, considering embedding vector, which is an artificial jargon. So what really matters here is so far there was chemical space genetics. We used to use this term, but we actually didn't know how to calculate the data exactly. But now we are able to calculate them in a detailed way. So probably in the near future we'll be able to calculate genetic information as well. So in that regards, when you consider embedding space or R&D or one class boundary among others, gene or other technologies, if we people successfully develop this, then if we come up with efficient data in the past, and if when this inefficient dose of medicine is injected to patients, what is going to happen, or AI building virtual space data, among other research are being conducted. And so, are Korean companies working on developing new drugs? If you would ask, recently, the Korea pharmaceutical biochemistry industry recently opened AI New Drug Development Support Center. And recently, and our plan is to reorganize MOCOM Institute for Biomedical Research into Artificial Intelligence New Drug Development Research Center. So we are planning to separate the public health research department and AI-oriented department. So since April 1st, I have been president of this AI New Drug Development Research Center department. So I said converging different fields is really difficult, as I said in the early part of my presentation. And there's Green Cross,
인공지능
and there's some AI New Drug Development department. If we successfully transform this, and as I work at Seoul National University, if we connect this SNU with other networks, and if we successfully come up with an interdisciplinary approach, then it will be meaningful. So we are currently working on this. And the last one, the discussion as a section, including Merck and Pfizer. Even if you include Merck or Pfizer, there's no clear fast runner in AI-oriented new drug development. So, if we successfully take an approach here, and if we immensely filter this, then there is a chance that we become a first mover, because Korea is a powerhouse for chemistry. And back in my university years, chemistry was so popular. And there are a lot of chemistry scholars, like specialists in Korea, and their AI technology is really advanced in Korea. And Korea, the country itself, has a very small territory. So if we come up with a very dense approach, and then AI-oriented development and new drug development will, of course, cure a lot of people, and it will contribute a lot to the society. Thank you for listening. Thank you for your theme presentation. It was President Kim Sun of Mokam Institute for Life Sciences. Next, we'll move on to the discussion session, and again, we will welcome President Kim, and the questioner will be CEO Yoon Seo-jung of Standime. Please welcome her. Please welcome the two with a big hand, ladies and gentlemen.
자, 세션 5의 주제
So session 5's theme is new drug developing platform licensing. So please begin your discussion.
안녕하십니까.
Hello, my name is Yoon So Jung. I'm a co-leader of Stay on Dime. Thank you very much for your presentation. It was quite short, but also very compact. We were able to learn the whole life cycle of new drug development and how we can benefit from the use of AI. One question I have is, as a leader of this research institute, the first topic you threw was, for a scientist, you have to focus on technologies. And as a person who runs an enterprise, on the other hand, I think instead of just staying as a technology or science itself, new drug development is connected to a new industry, and you have to go into the industry so that those technologies can be felt and benefit patients as well. So, in that sense, and also if you look at the points that you made, from technological perspective, there are some lagging points in the whole life cycle. And if you look at the global environment that we belong to right now, represent or in silicon medicine, all these companies are even considering short term. They went to clinical 1 and for clinical 2 trial phase, and they're showing the potential. And based on this technological advancement, even though you might think that these are initial technologies, these like pharmaceutical companies are recognizing the value of the technologies, and they're trying to achieve meaningful results. So, in that sense, from your perspective, Professor, in Korea, in Korea's biopharma industry, when I know that we're not at the center of global pharma scenes, but do you believe that global platform new drug development is something where we can be the leader in the global scenes? And do you think it'll be an environment where many different stakeholders like companies, hospitals, universities, and enterprises, what should we do so that it's not, doesn't just stay in the academia but come out and be commercialized and penetrate into the market? That is my question. Well, that's a good question. That's something I am also thinking about a lot. I can lay out two different perspectives. Number one, when I was working at DuPont, there was a JV, and then DuPont said, I'm just going to buy out all the Merck and then do everything on my own, but they sold it right after. So, what was happening back then? I think, looking back, so because you have a lot of experiences, you might understand right away, but maybe I have to be very careful in choosing language. Let's say you are doing really well and then you try to change something, there is going to be a huge resistance. You know, think about global pharmaceutical industry. It's going well. It's generating profits. So, U.S. Pharmaceutical employees do not have much computer science skills because they're already making great money. So it's very difficult for them to come into the area of computer science and artificial intelligence. And that is why, because of this resistance towards change, because we have never actually built new drugs from scratch, it'll be an opportunity. Let's say we are a company that have already developed new drug, and then we're selling this drug to all over the world, and you might not want to do it. They might think, oh, why do we need AI? We don't even need that. But we're not in that position, so we can take this advantage. And number two, in Korea, chemistry has been very important in Korea. It was one time even more popular than medicine, the field of medicine. And AI society is developing as well. So I was leading the society from 2008 to 2010. The society itself was quite not advanced, but now AI is developing very rapidly. So we have a great ground and foundation for this approach. So the problem is, how are we going to generate tangible results? How can we replace this with human how can we replace human resources with this? And our institute is a public institution, even though it was founded by the Green Cross. We are focusing on public good and public health, and there are many elements that we always look at. And as a biologists, we have been focusing on nurturing talent in the US and in Korea. And I think AI is somewhere where you need to make a specialist as well. We're not negotiating with Seoul National University. I don't know if I can disclose this information or not, but I think it's quite tangible and feasible. So Mogon Institute is going to pay 50%. SNU's AI Institute is going to pay 50%. We're going to create a two-term program starting from this fall, but they have all the attendees, participants have to have a PhD or a PhD student. The reason why we have this criteria on is that if you just know everything to a certain level, then it's not useful. Even if it's just a small category, you have to have in-depth knowledge, whether it's biology, medicine, computer science, or whatever field it is. If you have a PhD at one field, we are going to invite 5 different professors at SNU and provide relevant trainings. And by doing so, I think new drug development will be going successful. And if this goes smoothly, when we will decide whether we will do it again next year or not. What's most important is talent nurturing, because we have this environment for success. Thank you very much for your remarks. And when it comes to nurturing talent, I think having a flexible approach is important. And from that perspective, what would you think is the most recognizable achievement? You said AlphaFold plus 2. Compared to other areas, what's the reason why AI is generating better results? I think if you look at literature and studies, I think AI technology is now actively collaborating with many private companies and enterprises, and this could be one of the main reasons. And high-tech companies are generating and writing studies and research papers. And the reason why this is possible is because they have recruited PhD students, and they recruit them, they train them, they make results. They are building this foundation for great technological advancement and decision making and so on. So as a result, whether it is a school or a government or public agency, I think private companies are great leaders for the move, I believe. So I want to understand how you can translate this result into commerce or like a private industry. Well, I do not have much time, so to be simple, let's say there is a biologist who learn about AI. They will listen to and learn about pharmacy and other areas as well. Do you think they're going to become a specialist? No, of course not. However, that person has in-depth knowledge about biology itself. So let's say that person works at the Green Cross or Jonggundang or Samsung Biologics. It doesn't matter. Let's say this person works at one of the companies. They have knowledge, and they kind of understand AI too. So let's say that company is going to work for other researchers and scholars. You can communicate. So I think the most important point here for talent nurturing is a specialist who can communicate, who are equipped with communication capabilities, so that they can co-work and join in the research process itself. Well, that sounds great, but it's also difficult, I believe. As you shared, major universities or research institutes, they're making talent, and they work with enterprises and private companies, and this collaboration has to happen for them to achieve ideal performance. Well, I think I also talked about this issue at the Biopharma Association as well. But I think what we are lacking is the two-way communication. Are we ready? Is our Korean bio industry ready to accept these types of talent? The industry needs to change, and also the academia needs to change. No matter how good of a talent you hire, if the industry itself doesn't change and it's not open towards the use of AI, then nothing's going to change. That is why I have a plan to talk to Korean pharmaceutical companies. Well, I cannot agree more with what you have just shared. Um, I think pharmaceutical companies have their own ideas and strategies, and they are not willing to change towards a new approach. And if new talent is sourced into the Korean pharmaceutical companies, then they'll create a different culture, a different environment. And I think high tech technologies will be fused into pharmacy as well. Well, we say, "Oh, be open-minded," but we can't just be words. You have to invest. You have to reorganize and restructure your organization. You have to hire a head who can totally revamp the existing structure. And if the company does not do that, then that means they're not ready. Well, I think you are very honest and brave to share this. Thank you very much. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Let's give him a big hand. And that was the first presentation and discussion of session 5. And we talked about the licensing issues and new drug development. It was a very candid speech and remarks by the two discussants. And now let's move on to the Session 5's company presentation session. Number 1, we have Representative Bom Saksa from Lunit. Ladies and gentlemen, let's give him a big round of applause.
네, 안녕하세요.
Good afternoon. I'm CEO of Lunit, Sobomsok. We have a motto of overcoming cancer through artificial intelligence. And before I briefly introduce my company, I would like to mention some background first. Well, throughout your life, you must have at least visited a hospital once. And at the actual field, I would like to mention here, a patient would visit a hospital or a clinic and say, this part of my body hurts or I feel bad. Then the doctor would ask the symptoms and conduct tests. And if there is something wrong, then they conduct further tests like blood samples or radiology, like image, among others, and they come up with a diagnosis and then conduct detailed studies and decide what kind of treatment would best suit the patient. So if you take a look at the entire process of this, it's a data-based act. Of course, patients would make some decisions or guesses, but based on this data, doctors would say, in this case, you probably have this disease or this medication would best work, among others. So this is basically a data-oriented decision process. But over the past a decade or two, there were a lot of technologies, and those developed technology are being applied. For example, CT or MRI, they did not exist about 2 decades ago, but nowadays we have this technology. So the medical standard itself has increased a lot. And the definition of conducting diagnosis has changed a lot, and of course, not to mention treatment. And recently, gene analysis, among other technologies, are being invented, and They are practiced in the medical field, and nowadays the size and scale of data is getting bigger and bigger every day. So it's so big that it's really difficult for human beings, we people, to take a thorough look at every single piece of data. So because it's so broad and massive, even if no matter how well trained you are, what kind of specialist you are, using this big data to make a decision is really difficult. So in that sense, using the AI technology is really proper, and the AI is a very good fit because this big data is so massive and complex, and artificial intelligence is something that can properly analyze data pieces. So it's the most optimal technology. So I would say it will make a good fit. So in the past 5 to 8 years, there were various fields in the globe. There are a lot of startups launched their business in the medical healthcare field, and there are various new solutions, and their startups are developing them, and the entire market is growing a lot. So, based on that background, here comes Lunit. So, Lunit, we are focusing on cancer. So, I would basically introduce our company. We were founded in 2013, and we did grow a lot. And now, we have about 320 board members and a lot of staff members, and we have attracted a lot of investment, and we got a lot of like venture capital investments and strategic investors. So we have been keep growing, and of course we do have our headquarters in Korea, but we also have branches in the U.S. or China. So we are expanding globally as well, and this is the key characteristics and strength. And so in Korea, among the companies based on deep learning, we're number one, disregarding which field. So, in the very early stage, based on our specialty in artificial intelligence, we have been working on this. And World Economic Forum, for example, they said one of the best AI-based companies. They announced it, and we were the only Korean company which was included in their list. And we went to a lot of competitions and competed over Microsoft, Google, among other companies, and we won rewards as well. So one characteristic here is that we have a lot of strong medical staff members, and 12 medical specialists are working here full time. So they conduct various research, and they collect various data and refine data, and so they contribute a lot in this regard. And in Korea, Seoul National University, Severance Hospital, and Asan Samsung University Hospital, among other representative hospitals in Korea, are in collaboration, and also Stanford University in the United States is also collaborating with us. And not only are we developing products, but also what kind of significance do these clinical implications do these have? And studying that is also really important. And I personally said we have been working very hard, and we have published over 100 theses and research paper. So we have a motto of overcoming cancer. That is our company goal. And especially in cancer diagnosis, we want to effectively diagnose cancer. So say those conventional diagnosis like techniques like OCT or chest X-ray, among others, we applied artificial intelligence technology on those conventional ones so that we can preemptively detect cancer. And the second one is in terms of treatment. What kind of cancer patients or get treated well from what kind of drugs? So our ultimate goal is we want to decrease the tumor's survival rate. So we began focusing on cancer because the healthcare industry is so broad, so we thought it would be impossible to be specialists in every field of healthcare. So we were asking ourselves, what would be our strengths? And then cancer is a very well-known and widespread disease. Of course, if you even in your personal between your friends or among your neighbors, there must be some cancer patients. So it's ranked number one or two in worldwide, the number of patients. And even in Korea, the reason for death, cancer accounts for one of the highest, right? So this cancer is very complex. For example, lung cancer, breast cancer, or stomach cancer, among others. People just use this simple term, cancer. But if you dive into it, there are dozens and hundreds and thousands of different types of cancer. That is why it is so difficult to treat cancer, because cancer is subcategorized into so many items. So so we thought, why don't we apply big data and AI here to analyze it? So that is why we're focusing on cancer. So in terms of diagnosis, what kind of business model we are adapting? Let's move on here. So we have two representative commercialized ones, which are lung cancer and breast cancer diagnosis X-ray technology here, and also which are lung cancer and breast cancer detection technology. So when we detect the cancer tumor is here, and we analyze the confidence level of this, so that those doctors who monitor this can be confident that there are tumors here. So based on the clinical research we conducted, we wanted to know the accuracy level of the artificial intelligence, and compared to even human specialists, AI showed a very relatively high accuracy. And what matters more is radiologists, when they used our technology, and we saw the how helpful it was, and their accuracy increased by 20%. So there are very small micro tumors, but which humans find it difficult to detect, but AI can detect them. So even a very small part of tumor can be detected thanks to our AI technology. So I would like to show you an example. Here is a male aged 54. He was diagnosed with stage 3 lung cancer, and he at the same hospital he went to, he conducted an X-ray back in 2013 and 2014, but the X-ray said he did not have cancer, right? Because see, it's hard to detect. But when we applied this artificial intelligence back in 2013, even the picture AI successfully detected a tumor from the 2013 photo. So if he had used this AI technology, then he would have detected cancer. Well, then he would have detected tumor at phase 1, not 3, which means he could have been beginning treatment even some years ago. So that is our approach and our strategy. So while we began our business in Korea first, and in Korea domestically, about 10% of the entire image, cancer image, is conducted by our AI technology. And among the top 10 university hospitals in Korea, 7 out of 10 use our technology. And our initial goal, like, should we go global or not? We spent a lot of time thinking about it. Of course, we do have our own technology, but we began to focus on collaborating with overseas companies as well to expand our market. So, based on that approach, we are in partnership with GE Healthcare, Fujifilm, Philips, among others, so that when they sell their equipment products, we developed our model so that it can be sold in a package. For example, if you purchase a laptop, there's Windows software inside of it, right? Just like that. So we embed our technology in their devices. So the strength here is that, say, we are software technology platform, so we do not have like hardware. So globally, it's really difficult to secure a channel, global channel. So seeking partnership with those hardware companies, equipment companies, is really helpful. So, and also in terms of brand recognition, it also helps us. And for hospitals' perspectives, like it's compared to we are businessmen just visiting their hospital and trying to sell our software. And if you compare that to like they purchasing those conventional famous equipments, and if we have software in it, you can tell which is a better strategy. So globally, based on this partnership, we're working on our business expanding model, and currently more than 30 countries, and like include like 600 or so hospitals from 30 or more countries are purchasing our technology, and they're actually using this technology at clinical trials, and the number of the hospitals and the countries will keep increase. And the next step is that we are focusing on preemptive early diagnosis as cancer, right? And like not only those imaging technology, conventional ones, and also those new technology by collaborating the two, combining the two, and by coming up with a diagnosis model, and we should keep going toward the future. And last year, we conducted a partnership with United States Liquid Biopsys company. We got investment and signed a partnership. So likewise, we will keep contributing to this field. And next part is treating cancer. And in terms of treating cancer, since the cancer disease itself is really complicated, so one single drug cannot cure cancer. So there are different under subcategories. So you have to take multi-sided approach. And what kind of biological traits or characteristics does the patient have? Here jumps in the biomarker. So what kind of accurate technology can we take is the question. So when you conduct a biopsy, here you can see these images. So so far, when saying yes, this patient has a cancer or not, we use this technology, and there are a lot of like pieces of information about cancer, but since it's highly complex and complicated, it's really difficult for a person to accurately analyze this. But if you come up with this predictable image very well, and if you project or predict those reaction, then you can come up with good um, ways to treat this. And we are publishing a lot of like papers in international societies, like conferences. And in the past, people would say, this technology wouldn't show reaction, but we have proved that you can see reaction, and we figured out that we can increase the detection rate by 50% thanks to this new technology. So we're actually seeing fruitful results. So the next step is ultimately in this field, it is really important to collaborate with biopharmaceutical companies. So, like pharmacy or biomarkers, by pairing these two fields and coming up with a business model is really important. So that is what we are focusing on recently, and a lot of Korean companies and other international global companies, by seeking collaboration with those international companies. So we are planning to, of course, currently we're working on it, but later on in the near future, we will be able to pave a path to a successful development of this field. So, in terms of business, in terms of channel development, like I said, we do not have a physical hardware channel. So, If you take a look at those oncology specializing hospitals in the United States, if we collaborate with those hardware companies that have already paved a business channel with them, and if we seek partnership with them, then it will help us. So as long as we get licensing, then we can massively expand our business to the United States, among others. So ultimately, no matter if it's testing, diagnosing, or treatment, or others, if you apply this technology to various fields under the category of cancer, then we will be able to detect and treat cancer, and we will, in the end, overcome cancer itself. That is our ultimate goal. Thank you for listening. Thank you. It was the first company presentation of session 5. CEO Sub Bumsuk from Lunit presented about his AI solution in order to increase the detection rate of cancer and overcome cancer. So next on, we'll move on to the next presenter. And she was the questioner of the discussion session some minutes ago, who is Yoon So-jung, CEO of Sendai. Please welcome her with a big hand, ladies and gentlemen.
안녕하십니까?
Hello, everyone. Let me say hello again. I am a co-founder of Standime, and Standime is a company that is focusing on the workflow AI drug discovery. I believe that you'll understand what this actually means as you listen to my presentation. The title of the session is New Drug Development Platform and Licensing Out Strategies. So, AI technology, how this is going to be utilized, it is being utilized, and what kind of technologies are out there, and based on the technologies, how we are trying to create more businesses and opportunities with that is going to be the focus of my presentation. Standime was established back in 2015. Our headquarters are located in Gangnam, and the research institute is in Pangyo, and there's also antibody research institute in Songpa as well. A total of 80 employees are there, and we started this company under the help of Kakao's investment, and there are many other investors who jumped in to share their capital, and total capital we received is 80 billion Korean won. And one of the major groups is groups of investors are SK and SK Chemical as strategic investors for us. And for the first time in Korea, we attracted an overseas investment from Pavilion Capital. Pavilion Capital is a subsidiary of Singaporean National Fund. And I would like to move on to AI drug discovery technologies. Standime is going to focus on what we are best at, and we believe that that is a discovery. So if you look at the whole life cycle of new drug development, there's discovery side and there's also a developing side. And Standard would like to focus on discovery. We are going to identify candidate ingredients and materials and identify the seed with great potentials. And the reason why this makes sense is because AI's benefit, AI's advantage is setting assumptions, setting theories, making predictions, and evaluate whether the predictions are correct or not. And I believe that the characteristics of AI goes in hand with discovery. So our mission is quite simple. Value is creating commercial values continuously. There are two different colors that are infused, I believe. I think what's important here is commercialization. Even though we are an AI company, I think making and transitioning technology to service provision is not our goal. We are going to create the candidate that we're looking for, and the performance TPP itself is going to be published in not just in paper, but will be sourced to biotechnology companies or pharmaceutical companies. They have to identify this as a business opportunity. That is what we would like to create. And when it comes to creating that candidate material, we will utilize the strength of AI and the pipeline. We are not going to come up with intermittent candidate ingredients. We will continuously discover the candidates and provide the materials. So for this to happen, I believe that the grounding factor would be AI platform technology. And this AI technology has three different categories. One is identifying valid target for diseases. This is an AI platform that understands biology. And Standime Best, which is our second one, is to identify new chemical compound design and optimization. And Standime Insight is to come up with a new candidate ingredient and materials. And this is going to expand applications or indications. Well, let's say even if it had already approved by an organization, we would like to maybe change the use of it to target a different indication. That would be Stand Up Insight's purpose. And now I would like to move on to what we have been doing using our AI platform technology development. We are using our own research budget. We are registering patents on these candidate materials and ingredients. We have been making service level agreements with global biopharmaceutical companies. And as our next stage, we have already created novel target and novel compound discovery. And as we are verifying these compounds based on what we have, we will work with global and Korean pharmaceutical companies to jump into real projects. And recently, we came up with a disease identification project. I believe that increasing the value of a candidate material, you have to think of a specific disease that you have never thought of. We need to have target's original information and database so that the candidate can overcome the existing usage or application. And this is why we decided to come up with Standime Ask. And we are doing target validation for individual material, and we're doing joint studies with other partners as well. And today I'm going to focus on Ask and Best among our solutions. Ask is a platform that's focusing on new target discovery, and based on the relationship between the disease and target, we can set priorities of new targets. Let's say it's instead of just throwing scores about the relationship itself, you have to explain why they're relevant, why this makes sense or pivotal in studies or drug development. That's the main purpose. And the platform has 4 different topics. And the 4 topics could be classified into 2 major topics. One is knowledge-based model, and the other is unbiased data module. It is based on raw data. So I'm sure when you hear AI, artificial intelligence, data is important. Depending on what data you learn, the outcome of the data analysis is going to be different. And knowledge level is based on knowledge. When we are learning and accepting knowledge, what kind of plus alpha can be generated is our area of focus. Of course, we will look at all types of knowledge, but knowledge is already an outcome that went through someone's logic or thoughts. But AI could also utilize raw data, which is not knowledge yet, and that is called unbiased data platform. So the reason why we want to do both here is because target discovery has to understand a complex mechanism of biology, and understanding this mechanism does not come from one magical wand. You can't resolve a solution by throwing or using a magical wand. So you have to come up with complementing technologies to achieve ultimate goals. So the first one, knowledge level, is called Ask Task Finder. And researchers are, this is very similar to the process that many researchers go through. Let's say protein, disease, drug, side effects, all these entities are tied to a research, and all that information is gathered, and each entity is formed as a node, and there are edge between node, and we show the relationship between nodes so that a gigantic biological information is created and mapped onto a graph. And based on the graph, you can understand paths and pathways so that even though it's not used yet, you can identify some of the meaningful targets. That's called Pathfinder. And let's say making this graph, knowledge-based level graph, more abundant and rich, you have to keep updating the graph. And as a result, what you need is a natural language processing engine. So we have the product called ICANN. Let's say there's a literature or a document. You have to identify major entities and identify the relationship between the entities. So Pathfinder's data is being improved by ICANN and also is validated by ICANN as well. So the knowledge level approach, as many researchers are reading literature, studies, and paper, and you compare different theories and come up with their own theory. But I believe that you can have a broader perspective and a new idea or a proposal by using AI module. That's our first one. And the second option we would like to share with you is Ask One Wanderer and Ask GSM. We are going to look at raw data level data points, and we will process them on our own to come up with meaningful data points. And at the same time, metabolic system can be interpreted so that genotype, phenotype prediction, or target prioritization with omics data can happen. So Wanderer is going to focus on raw data, and Ask GSM is going to be specifically focusing on genotype and phenotype prediction. So with these focuses, we have been carrying out different research and product development projects. After we shared Ask with the world, back in 2020, we are working with many different partners, and I believe that the biggest result came from a big pharmaceutical company. We can't disclose the name with you today because we haven't got the approval from our leadership yet. But related to the Ask platform, there are two different approaches. That pharmaceutical would like to identify a new target, and they also like to improve their technology. How they are going to internalize the platform to their company's database. We are now going through different experimentations. We're carrying out a joint study with them. So in that sense, even though we are a platform company, from assets perspective, we can study targets with them, and we can internalize and integrate our platform technologies to them and with them. And I believe this is a great result that we achieved recently. And also, we are working with academia as well, and also working with SK Chemicals, and with the targets that we identified, we can design actual ingredients with them as well. So what's interesting over here is this platform itself is, of course, done by ourselves, but we are also working with SKCNC. There's an open version, and when we opened it in 2020, the open version is called I Can Ask. There is a level where we can disclose and release to public so that they can have an understanding of what it is as an AI platform. They talk about technology itself, but they don't know what it actually means. So they tend to see that there's a gap between the explanation and the actual usage. But I believe that by sharing this Ask platform to a certain level, I want researchers and scholars to be able to use this as a tool for their own research. So we decided to disclose it and design a platform and service it. So we are now operating on an open version. So if you put in iClue Ask on Google, you'll be able to experience and see what the platform looks like. And new candidate material creation technology, they are called Standine Best, and there are two different points tied to this. One, it has to be a design process. Um, what medicine and chemical students or researchers think, you have to go over one more step. It can't just generate a thing and be done with it. You have to pick and choose what researchers would like to use. That's how you create a new ingredient. So standard best also is including these two elements as well. From design's perspective, there is a chem map, which is representing the structure of chemical compounds. So extract information is laid out on the chem map, and that's the essence of our technology. And based on the chem map, we have a module called Galapagos. And let's say there's a specific target and you want to design something, and you can give scores by predicting activities. There is a primary activity, whether it's hit or lead. There will be different resolutions that would be generated, and based on these variables, you will do scoring accordingly. And not just activation, but after the activation phase, they have to go through many different pass or fail stages, and MS stability, hug inhibition, hinging are our focuses, so that even physical properties can be further enhanced. And the design itself, and when it's already designed, we have to give meaningful scoring system, and those modules are all created by us. And it's not just individual modules. You have to understand the DMF, dark mole factory, not the database itself. You get experiments done, and after experiments, there are results that come out, and then you can make it into a framework and build it into a project. This whole life cycle is completely included in the fifth element, which is called DMF in our platform. So let's say there is an automated workflow that we're adding to the platform to a certain point at our certain version. I think Ask is going to design a ingredient. We'll do in vitro assay, and then we are going to collect these catalogs as our assets, and we'll make sure that the timeline is no more than 7 months. And as we build and accumulate these candidate or actual ingredients, it's not just being built just for the sake of being built. We are going to look at what we can do and what we can't do, and we will cherry pick what we are best at, and focus on what's more promising. Even though it's still at an initial stage, we can identify a new target, accumulate the number of ingredients so that workflow can occur naturally. And I think what biotech is suffering from the most is that failure remains as a failure. But the AI platform's advantage is that even though something ends up in failure, you can also utilize that experience as a new data source for a new project. So I believe that this workflow AI is going to generate a virtuous cycle for next research and projects as well. So our business and commercialization strategy that I would like to share is, sorry, I'm rushing. With this technology, with this vision, I think the best commercialization model is not just selling ingredients as themselves or selling technologies themselves. We're not saying we will wait till the end to sell products. Once the ingredients are made, and let's say a certain in vitro assays done and lead ops stage is completed, we will run a package deal with other companies. So this package deal is not just something that we are saying we're going to do. There are many other companies who are saying and planning to do package deals. So from biotech's perspective, initial stage, candidate or ingredient, you might say that it's an early stage, but the potential of this ingredient and the technology that's behind it, if that's guaranteed, then we should be able to sell it to global pharmaceutical companies. And what's enabling this process would be 5 different elements. As Professor Kim also shared, talent pool is important because we are an AI company. We have AI technicians, but that's not the end. We have secured talent who have been leading different projects at pharmaceutical companies. So we are striking a good balance between pharma and tech, and to make sure that failure can also serve as our next success, we are we need a platform that can scale up different projects. We have been running 52 programs so far since 2019, and we are building partnerships with Korean and global partners. And because of all the activities that we're engaging in, global top 10, Schrödinger in Citro's investor is now choosing Standime as their third investee, and Pharma Intelligence Report has been published, and our company is mentioned. We are chosen as top 40 global leading AI pharma firm, and as you can see, end-to-end sector is mentioning Standime as well. Excientia that went through clinical trials and in silico are boasting their technological prowess. And I believe that this year and next year we are going to focus on what we have been doing too. Sorry for rushing, and thank you for your attention. Thank you, and let's give her a big hand. You are opening a new paradigm with your technology and your vision. And now let's move on to our next company presentation. And Hyuto Ms. VP Lee Tok Myung is going to present to all of you. Let's give him a big hand.
반갑습니다.
Good to see you all. I'm Vice President of Hyutom, Lee Dong-myung. And I came here and listened to others' previous presentations, and you may find our item unfamiliar, so I would say 20 minutes isn't enough to explain everything. So I'll just give up on explaining everything in detail, but so I'll just rather choose to enable you to remember what our company is. So our presentation theme is reshaping surgery through digital innovation. So patient caring platform from reshaping surgery. And nowadays, using AI is a very obvious, of course, item nowadays. So instead of talking too much about AI, I'll rather focus on our company's identity. So when it comes to diagnostic AI, we rather focus on something else, like in surgery and before surgery technology. So there will be some videos in the video. So I would like to ask for your understanding if you are not used to graphic image. So there's this platform to help out surgeons. Here is the table of contents. Company introduction and our AI solution, core competency and growth strategy. Originally, I had over 100 pages, but because I have 20 minutes, I just chose the most important parts. The market needs is like this. from a patient's perspective, 1 in 5 or 1 in 4 people eventually get cancer, and there needs surgical intervention. So when it comes to market size, the market size is really expanding in a rapid way. And when a patient gets cancer, then that patient would use all his efforts to find the best surgeon in his social circle. And after surgery, the chance of getting complications after getting a surgeon, it differs between patients by almost fivefold. Even getting a fever is also considered a complication, and patients are reportedly have complications with 50% of chance, and those suffering from complications and not, they have fourfold of different afterwards medical expenses. And here at the graph, it shows the medical achievements and the history. So the first is laparotomy, and the middle one is laparoscopic surgery, inserting camera in the human body and seeing the monitor to conduct surgery. And instead of laparoscopic, you could insert a robot, which is a robot surgery. So when you see the vertical graph, you can see a quantum jumping. The outcome of the surgery done by surgeons is increasing. So by each generation, the result level is quantum jumping. And after since the adoption of robots, nowadays we're shifting to digital operation. This is data-based surgeon. In the past, surgeons were they had to learn manual operation from their tutors, but nowadays surgeons can make use of AI or other data. They can refer to the collected data to conduct operation. And here it does not show a flat rate, but you can see that the gap between surgeons is decreasing. So even those highly trained surgeons or not so highly trained surgeons, the results will be very similar to each other. So our goal is to foster a fair surgical environment. Next slide. I'll just skip this slide as well. So I would like to categorize my company's characteristics into three. So first is medical infrastructure. So we have Professor Hyun Jin, who is managing director at Yonsei Severance Hospital Oncology. So he has the best gastric cancer related data, and Professor Lee. So he has like a boundary of data, and I'll skip explaining the second one. If you take a look at the third one on the right, is AI technology. So I would say we have number one technology. So not only diagnosis, but the entire surgical procedures will be video filmed with our technology. So AI vision technology is our key, and I would say we are number one in of its kind in Korea. And even if you include the overseas market, we also have a very strong strength. So at the Mika Challenge, so there's a global competition, and we awarded the first prize, and the second prize went to Facebook. So we have the number one technology worldwide, and the basis of having this number one is thanks to our AI infrastructure. AI should annotate data well in order to get smarter and smarter. And based on our medical data, we those normal annotation data can't work it by itself. Medical doctors have to process the data. So they studied what kind of surgery resulted in bleeding? And from A to Z, what kind of those 11 steps were? Like, in what sense were they different? So they conducted some cross-checking to come up with data. So we have the most richest data in the world. That is why we were able to rank number one in this field. So now I only have 10 minutes left. I also do it quick. Professor Hyung wasn't able to be here, but he works at Yonsei Severance Hospital, and um, we are currently working on Series B, and I'll move on to the next slide. In 2017, we found our company, and we have been accumulating our technology. And since 2020, we began commercializing. We did GMP certification or ISO 13485, or conducted clinical trials, and now we're working on Series B investment, and we completed a domestic clinical trial in Korea, and we're working on clinical trials in multi-nations in 11 hospitals worldwide. And this year, we are planning to get our technology assessed at NECA. And I'll skip some slides again. So probably now you have a gist of our identity. And here I can categorize the overview into three. One is the solution before surgery. The mid one is in the middle of the process, so intra-operation. So the service that we provide in this process, and the very right one is after completing the surgery. We do provide additional service after operation. So we have about 4 to 5 different services. But since I do not have enough time to explain all the 5 in detail, so I'll just focus on this RUS navigation, AI-aided navigation technology. So this RUS, I'll explain it on this slide. So RUS is when a patient has to go through a surgery, then of course he must have been diagnosed with cancer. Then you conduct a CT image. So you film about 400 photos, and if you upload the 400 images on the platform, and you can use this actual product to recognize the anatomy data. So why is this recognizing process important? Is that when a camera robot actually went into the body, and this one has to do with like laparoscopic surgery. So it's like you cut the body part and inject the robot, and then it gets out, then you sew it. So it's a sort of operation of saving the blood vessels. So doctors actually taking a look at the organ is less than 20 minutes. But the rest of the time spent is about the problem about if the patient would survive or not after cutting the organ. And just like humans' fingerprints, blood vessels differ between people and people. And when a camera robot enters the human body, people would imagine that the camera would show clear image. However, because of fat in the human body, it's like driving a car without turning a light on. So please click the left bottom one to play the video. So there are 3 different videos. If you see the video, then you will have a gist on it. Well, it looked like it was going to work. Well, then could you please play the second one? It doesn't work. It's a shame. That was the most important part of today's presentation. Next slide, then. Well, I'll just explain verbally then. So I'll explain based on the left photo here. So when a patient enters a operating room, of course you won't remember what had happened because you get medicated and fall asleep, and patients are not allowed to enter as well, right? So nowadays, when you use your robot technology, medical doctors do not look at those physical bodies of patients, but instead they use a console box, just like playing a game, a video game. So they operate that and operate a robot, so that the robot inside the patient's body does the operation. So those medical doctors, how do they see the video in it? Here is a robot inside of the stomach. So they're looking into the graphic provided by our technology. So there are this kind of vessel hidden here, and after cutting this, then they have to take a close look here, or they have to clip this. So those medical doctors are guided by this medical system. So from since last year to March this year, we conducted a clinical trial on 36 different samples, and we are about to publish a paper on this. So when you watch this video, then you can intuitively understand the procedure. But it's a shame that I cannot play this. Actually, in Singapore, there was an actual case where we provided a service to a Singaporean patient. So I was planning to show you that video as well, but maybe next chance. And this is the after surgery video. Could you please see if this video plays? So this is a post surgery. Well, if it doesn't work, then forget about it. So when you finish getting operated, then meanwhile you'll have video inside of video robot inside of you, and it will be video filmed for 3 hours. And when we upload that video on the video platform, then the artificial intelligence analyzes that video clip and gives us information that because the surgeon got lost in the middle of the surgery, so probably the patient will have some complications. So they're with the chance of X%. And based on that report, the medical doctor can focus and concentrate on the risk of it, so they can get rid of the risk. So that is surgigram. So one example is that after a patient went to a hospital, I said the chance of getting a complication is 50%. Like even getting a fever is a sort of complication. And then surgeons will think there must be a specific reason that a patient got a fever, but they cannot open the human body again, and they do not have enough time to play the video for 3 hours to find out the reason. So the AI jumps in and does that analyzing part. So they recognize the anatomy data. So there are from step 1 to 21 when conducting this surgery. So there are like 15, 16, and 17 phases. So the AI does the phase-based recognition. And this is the before surgery service. So because of recognizing all the construction, thanks to this visual reconstruction, medical doctors, surgeons can practice the surgery. So in the past, no matter how skillful you are, you have to conduct practice surgery on actual body. So only one practice was possible per body. But nowadays, thanks to this platform, you can practice over and over again. And here are competitors of our company. So there are Visible Patient, Assist Test, Care Syntax, and Surgical Science and Olympus. But we're the only company that has an entire process service for before, mid, and after the surgery. And as I mentioned earlier, in terms of quantity and quality, in terms of medical surgical data, we have a lot of sufficient data, which is beyond compare to other companies. So we have been recognized at the global level, so we have a very competitive edge. So Hitum, like I boasted a while ago, we ranked number one, and Facebook ranked number two in this field. And since the moderator wants me to wrap it up, I'll do my best. So, worldwide, the number of arm cancer cases is increasing by 50% every year, and nowadays, the medical expenses for this surgery is increasing by three or fourfold. And people would say, if you conduct surgery of opening your stomach, then people would say, that's a severe condition. But the number of available surgeries is over 1,000, and nowadays available is over 10 million. And we are aiming to account for 5% of the entire market share within 5 years, and then later on we will increase. Next, we will move on charging patient by patient model. So we will adopt the SaaS model. Currently, we finished developing this on an oncology level. And there's kidney cancer, hepatobiliary pancreas, lung cancer, and colorectal cancer are the stages that we'll take. Thank you for listening. Thank you for your presentation, the first of its kind AI-based surgery platform. It was Vice President Lee Duk-myung of Hutum. So we will look forward to seeing the development of this field in the future. So all the materials used during their presentation sessions, you can see them on the official website of InvestFair 2022, and you can download them online. So under the theme of a new drug development platform licensing out strategy, session 5 was the end. And now please take a coffee break, and we will begin session 6 from 3:20. And all the online participants, you may also take a coffee break, and please come back by 3:20. See you shortly.
네, 여러분들 모두 잘 쉬고 오셨.
Ladies and gentlemen, did you enjoy your coffee break? Let's begin the last session of Biokorea Invest Fair 2022. Session 6, the theme of microbiome global trend and licensing out strategy. Let's begin with the theme presentation. Microbiome's global trend and licensing out. The theme will be presented by CEO So Young-jin of Genome and Company. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome it with a big hand.
예, 안녕하십니까. 진호
Hello, everyone. My name is So Young Jin from Genome and Company. I know that today's title is Microbiome Global Status and Licensing Out Strategies. And at the 2022 Biokorea Invest Fair, there was another representative who gave a speech. So I would like to take a slightly different focus, and I'm going to focus on our growth strategies. And one of the growth strategies that we utilize is merger and acquisition. So I'm going to take this opportunity to explain on this one. So my table of contents for this presentation is company overview, and then our M&A process, as well as Scioto Bioscience that we have acquired recently, as well as List Lab that we acquired as well. We are going to show you our target and goals about how we want to grow as a global company. I'm sure that you have already heard about this. There is a close relationship between humans and diseases and the environment. As you know, there are infectious diseases, anti-cancer, drugs, and metabolistic diseases. And individual company has their own microbiome to treat individual indication. And as you can see, there are global microbiome companies, and they are growing their market cap and making up their market cap according to their capabilities. Finch, Genome and Company, Go Biolab, all these ones in the US and Korea are actively playing a role in this financial market. And if you look at what they are doing at the moment, Cellus Therapeutics, as you can see, is SEI 109. That's this infectious disease treatment. It passed clinical trial phase 3, and now it is going through the very final stage. And for 4D Pharma, which is a UK company, mRNS is now going through joint clinical study with Pitramap for solid cancer. And there are other companies that are coming up with anti-cancer treatments as well. And now moving back to Genome and Co. What we are doing is joint studies with Pitramap and other anti-cancer drugs. Within this year, we will be able to show some legitimate data that could be more valid for our further research. And SCB-12 is a representative microbiome special treatment that is targeting autistic spectrum disorder, and the clinical stage is almost over. And another company that is famous in Korea is Ko Biolabs, and they're doing treating psoriasis and inflammatory bowel diseases. And as I shared earlier, Theros Therapeutics is showing a valid points. And as FDA wanted to get more additional data for verification, the patient study is almost over. And I believe that according to the earning calls report, this year they're going to submit BLA, and within next year they're going to come up with a number 1 microbiome treatment next year. So we have looked at microbiome treatments, study scenes. And from now on, I'm going to look at what we are doing when it comes to microbiome treatment, research and development. I'm going to move on to company overview. Genome and Company was founded back in 2015, and Han-Soo Park is the founder. And this March, I joined the foundership, and there are 3 different founders that are making up the company. This leadership, we have about 100 employees, and we are located in Pangyo, in Bundang, and we are focusing on microbiome and also discovering novel targets for antibody treatments. And to go on to research and development pipeline, we're focusing on genomes. We have GEN001. This is a single strip, and we're targeting solid cancer, stomach cancer, as well as cholangiocarcinoma. And we are going through many different clinical trial phases. I believe that there are 3 different pipelines that's targeting and going through clinical phase 2. And as you can see from here, we have a new target anti-cancer drugs. We will use a novel target inhibitor, which we are developing at the moment. And GINA 104 is showing the fastest results that's going to target solid cancer. We're going through the preclinical stage, and maybe early next year we'll go to clinical phase. And as I shared earlier, we have SB121, which is a microbiome treatment that's targeting autistic spectrum disorder. Clinical 1 is over. And for infertility product, GN004, we are researching it. And for GN501, which is skin rash after anti-cancer treatment and atopy skin disorder as well. So if you look at our history, after the foundation back in 2015, we got listed, and in 2000, we got listed in Konex in 2018, and in 2020 we were listed on Kosdaq, and then in July of 2020 we acquired Saito Biosciences, and last year we also bought List Biological Laboratory, a list which is called List Labs. And I'm going to share with you why we made these decisions. We're focusing on business model and research and development. We're aiming for a totally, fully integrated and comprehensive business model. We want to acquire capabilities, end-to-end capabilities that can cover not only technological and development, but also commercialization and business capabilities as well. And not just immuno anti-cancer drug portfolio, we are going to expand to brain diseases and neural diseases, as I shared earlier. And we are doing CDMO with other companies. Given the new modality, I think securing production capabilities could be very important going forward. So by acquiring CDMO companies, we're going to internalize our production capabilities and is going to make everything in-house. And now I'm going to talk about Saito Biosciences. Why did we buy Saito Biosciences? I think it was around 2019 that we decided to buy Saito Biosciences. There were about 30 to 40 candidates, and among them, we saw that a program that is going to enter into clinical phase 1 is going to be the best candidate. And, there is some time that to move up to preclinic to clinical stage. So we wanted to see what companies are already secured pipelines, and after going through all the thorough reviews and everything, JPM conferences and other opportunities, we had in-person meetings with European and U.S. companies, and we made a finalist that it's composed of 5 different companies, including Saito Biosciences. And we made a negotiation, and due diligence happened since May, and after 2020 June, we decided to finalize the purchase. And this is the target screening that we have carried out. There are many different listed companies, and we saw a long list, and you can see that we made a short list with this top 5. And if it's going to be related to microbiome, prebiotics, postbiotics, FEOT, there are different strategies you can choose from. And let's say that technology could have engineering characteristics, or if it's a platform technology, those different content is important because we could further reflect and apply that to different pipelines. And clinical stage was important too, because we wanted to specifically have a company that could enter clinical phase 1 within 1 year from that specific moment. So that was a short list we created. And among other companies, Scioto Biosciences was based in Indianapolis. And if you look at the pipeline, they were focusing on autistic spectrum disorder, which is quite attractive. So instead of just doing licensing in, we wanted to buy all the equities of Scioto Biosciences. And this particular company was founded in 2017. It's located in Indianapolis, in Indiana. And they were going through Series A and B when we looked at them. And then I believe that it's closer to NIBD model from our perspective. They got all the technologies and research results from Biocrossroads and different academia. And important key figures have joined the team as well. You can see that Lactobacillus rutili and dextrin microspheres and maltose were added together to create SP121. Instead of using a single ingredient, the activation level was quite higher, and that was the key characteristics of their development program. And according to the research results, it will go through vagus nerves and will exude oxytocin and other materials, ingredients, and this is going to serve as a protein treatment mechanism. So by going through mechanisms and clinical potentials, there is also GI tract effects where you can expect antimicrobial and anti-inflammatory impacts. It won't just apply to ASD, but could also expand to other indications as well, and which is quite attractive. And currently, we are going through clinical phase 1, and we are now doing the interim analysis after the clinical study. And even though was just phase 1, there are many exciting points that we have caught. So we should be able to disclose our findings with you sooner rather than later. And there's also necrotizing enterocolitis. This is bowel disease that is witnessed in newborns. And I think we will be able to enter clinical phase 1 within this year. And secondly, I want to talk about List Biological Laboratories, which is a microbiome CDMO company, and disclose why we decided to purchase them. We might think that, oh, you are an R&D company. Why do you need a CDMO company? As I shared earlier, even though we are focusing on research and development, production has to be resolved. Without the internalization of production capabilities, you can't actually make it into a model or make it into a product if you do not have production facilities. So for production facility, we needed a feature or a physical ground, and we wanted to find ways to maximize our business margins and profitability as well. As you all know, among microbiome or biopharma industry, it is going up when it comes to CDMO markets. And currently, microbiome treatments are just going through clinical phase 1. So for production, they tend to rely on other CDMO enterprises. And if you look at these 6 companies, they are playing an oligarchy in the industry, We have Australia, US, and Europe-based companies, and if you look at their capacity, their antibody CDMO is quite small when it comes to share, and small and medium-sized CDMOs are out there in the market and industry. So in that sense, let's say microbiome treatments are going to become mature, we'll go through clinical stage 2 and 3. We will need a CDMO with a mature technology and facility. And as a result, to cover the commercialization, we wanted to buy in List Labs. So we bought List Labs in 2021, and then we are going to further expand our move so that DSDP can be covered. And currently, we are building a company and a plant in Fishers in Indiana so that we can go global in including Europe and the United States. And when we bought List Labs, what we looked at are the followings. So currently we have SB121 and GN004 and microbiome pipelines. We're going to let List Labs handle and produce our materials. We had been building partnerships beforehand. And List Labs also have a original Botox stream. And they have also made Botox products by working with Elegant as well. So they have already matured their production capabilities to a level of US FDA CGMP, and they have been researching and developing biotoxins, and I think they have recently expanded to other microbiome CDMO as well. So, given these thought process in the initial stage, from stage 1 of acquiring CDMO, we are going to further sophisticate our production capabilities. So not only we can provide and produce our own products, we're going to expand the production bases towards other locations to go global. So we have, even though we are a biotech based in Korea, we are now looking for partnerships in the United States and Europe so that we can internalize fully our production capabilities. We are going to become a global biopharmaceutical company in the near future. So this is the vision that we have shared earlier. For a fully integrated and comprehensive company that we are aiming for, we want to make sure that our whole cycle is covering R&D and all the way to production and commercialization. Of course, it's going to take some time, but I believe that in terms of R&D and production, we are definitely becoming a comprehensive and integrated company, and we're putting further efforts into it. This is my last slide. This is a movie called Far and Away where Tom Cruise and Nicole Kidman featured. And this is a movie with the background of the Wild West of the United States. I'm sure you are aiming to become global companies like Amgen and Gilead's or other famous ones. The issue is how far we could go, how we're going to conquer new territories with our capabilities. I believe that we can do it as we work harder. Thank you very much.
고맙습니다.
Thank you for your presentation. That was CEO Seo Young-jin from Genome and Company. That was a themed presentation that has marked the first session of session 5. And let's move on to a discussion with the CEO Seo and our discussant, a former dean of the Department of Pharmacy at Yonsei University, Mr. Han Kyun-hee. Ladies and gentlemen, let's give him a big hand.
네, 두 분.
Please begin the discussion session. Two gentlemen. Good to say I'm Professor Han. I work at Yonsei University, and I am currently working for bioengineering, and I was former dean of pharmaceutical studies. I wanted to put some industrial characteristics in pharmaceutical when some while ago, and futuristic biohealth care industry is the key. And in the middle of developing the field, like Professor Kim from Session 5 said, the securing manpower is really important. Why I'm mentioning this is that I graduated from School of Pharmacy, and when I studied pharmacy, it was like refining was number one, and capsule doses were also renowned. However, people did not prefer injecting because people can take oral pills 3 times a day, but people don't get 3 injections a day. But thanks to the development of drugs, instead of like getting 3 shots a day, nowadays you can just get a single shot a month. So that was a game changer. So the aims of this pharmacy changed, and just like CAR T, among other cell therapy, so once a month is now like the past. So now, if you just take one medication, then that's all. So if you shift to the digital therapy field, then nowadays the visual drugs is no longer, and you can just use like invisible, intangible drugs. So the paradigm of medicine is keep changing, and there were a number of game changers from oral pills to injection. There was like fusion and the CAR T treatment, where you need only one treatment. So I personally have been thinking that microbiomes have a great potential because people eat food at least once a day, and your organs can't process the food 100%. Then where does the rest go? If you take if you take overdose of antibiotics, then it could lead to diarrhea. So, what kind of studies could you further conduct to find the secrets, and how we do so will be a game changer of the future of pharmaceutics. So I personally think I personally do not prefer microbiomes because I got old. So I got older and older, and like the elderly don't like new things. But today, by listening to presentations, I thought maybe I should learn about it. And this microbiome has its own universe, and this is a very new approach. So, Genome and Company did a very meaningful presentation from R&D into business, and this usually biotech companies usually are limited to R&D. However, you showed a vision that from research to commercializing it. So today, the question that I would like to ask is that in order to be a game changer, where specifically should we focus on? Well, that question is really complicated, so it's so difficult to answer. But not only microbiomes, but all those conventional drugs or antibiotics, among others. In terms of mobility, what should matter the most is the key, I would say. So, from a company's perspective, of course, R&D is the most important, and life sciences specialists, of course, would say that research is important, and what kind of efficacy can be found from animals, and what about humans, and how can we prove them? Those are really important parts. And I have been working for a genome and company for 4 years, and I said the efficacy is more important than traits. So, if you found results from animals, and what kind of characteristics should you change to apply to human beings, and what kind of efficacy But so it's like finding a way in the middle of a maze. So conducting research, you can find a way. So traits and characteristics, microbiome, of course, has its own safety. So that is why other characteristics are not considered as priority. But nowadays, deregulation has to be followed. So we have licensed from the United States, but they have to get licensed in Korea too. So say even in the United States, if they think that this is safe enough, then they are kind of like relatively open-minded to Korea. So in terms of that, the KFDA's microbiome guideline, I think the KFDA should preemptively, like rapidly, come up with the regulations so that it can open a room for us. And third is that, well, we are kind of worried about the stock price of our company, among others. But if you have hope in modality and if you actively invest in our company, then all the researchers will have more energy and baseline to conduct their research. So that's what I would like to say. So like you said, CEO Sa, you said efficacy really matters. Comes to me the most. So I myself has a startup company, and people ask me that actually the one who wins takes it all is the last actor, but we have to focus on that point. So currently I'm taking a year off from lecturing. So before that I was also like advisor to various fields, and today I would like to say nowadays there's rising demand in industry, and by creating a platform and preparing it, they matter a lot. And the GMP factor is really important. And without a proper manufacturing facility, you cannot guarantee sales, right? So I personally think, in terms of industrial productivity of microbiome, in order to secure productivity, we have to work on CMC or GMP, among others, when handling them. The biggest problems, if there are, and how should we overcome the challenges? Well, we also is thinking a lot about manufacturing, and we're putting efforts to expand our manufacturing power. And with HM Pharma, among others, we're like seeking partnership and to build our manufacturing power. But if you identify microbiome and lactobacillus, like, there is a trend of regarding the two the same. But however, I think people should change microbiome and lactobacillus. Well, you can just breed the two, people would say. But when it comes to food, like the licensing for food and licensing for drugs, they're totally different, right? So it's like oil and water. They're so different, but people consider it like that way. Then there is a vague line between the two. So when licensing and producing them, say Samsung Biologics or your university, like they will probably take a strict approach. They say, this is lactobacillus. You can just put in a lab and breed it and just culture it. I think people's recognition should change. That people should recognize microbiome as a part of drug. So the regulations should change. And how are we going to produce microbiomes based on this systematic licensing or medicine? I think that is the most challenging part. Because if you're newly inventing something brand new, then people will have new regulations. However, because this lactobacillus and microbiome are conventional items, so there are existing regulations. So I think the recognition should be changed. Okay, then, last but not least, I have this last question. Then probably we can wrap it up. So when I was listening to your presentation, CEO Sa, you are working on a microbiome, and the microbiome in the human body is flora. Like they have multi-strains and complaints under the name of them. If you would explain them. So in terms of processing and manufacturing, single strains would work, but in the future, if this field gets a lot of attention and in terms of patents, there must be some systematical difficulties. What do you think? Like you said, Professor, of course we need that field and we have to work on it. But if you take a look at the consortia, multi-strain strategy, single-strain strategy, we are taking two different approaches. Currently, single strains are easier to come up, and like PKR or tracking, it's much easier. And single strain is not just injecting and staying there, but it goes out of the human body. So the metabolistic treatment efficacy, there is efficacy. So we are currently working on R&D. So this will act as the first generation microbiome treatment. And if we have more knowledge in the body system, then of course, like you mentioned, we can diversify the microbiome's strategy. Well, today I learned a lot of things that I haven't known in the past, thanks to you. And like you said, the microbiome itself, from my perspective, it changed from oral pills to injection to new medicine. So I think this is a paradigm changer. And as you said, the single strain and multi-strain, the transitioning approach, how we map this. Of course, it will need a scientific approach, but you have a degree, like MD degree, so right. So medical doctors, of course, they do have the highest understanding of patients, and finding the best treatment for patients, and connecting that to manufacturing so that we can directly benefit patients. I think that world brings to life. Thank you. Thank you. It was a relatively short time. However, they did a meaningful discussion of about microbiome. Thank you again for the two gentlemen for discussing microbiome. Well, let's begin the first company presentation of session 6. First is Executive Director Lee Chun of ABL Bio. Please welcome him with a big hand, ladies and gentlemen.
안녕하십니까?
Hello, everyone. I am Lee Chun. I'm CFO. I'm in charge of strategy and finance at ABL Bio. I'm sure many of you are here from different companies and industries, but we were suffering from a challenge. Maybe you have seen it on the media exposure or articles. You know, Sanofi contract with our company was there was an issue, and there was a rumor that Sanofi is going to file a complaint, but we made an official announcement. Maybe you have seen it or not, but recently, related to the recent contract with Sanofi and ABL Bio, everything is going very smoothly. So I would like to ask for ask you to be staying away from these rumors or speculations. So the point that I would like to make is the vision and our commitment. ABL as a company, we are going to lead different business activities. What belief we had, what philosophy we have, and what vision we're going to pursue in the future is what I would like to focus today. And recently, I think people are viewing quite objectively about K-Bio. Many people are suffering from the plunge of their stock prices. Even though there are some technological advances, the stock prices are not going up either. So I think this is a time for us to focus on the basics of our business, and I want to share with what we have. So I just talked about we'll have a vision and commitment and philosophy. If you look back on what we have been doing so far since 2018, what we are doing is a new drug development. It entails a high risk. So you can say that it is going to be very costly, and we can't deny this fact. We can't achieve fruits or result without investment. So then the issue is, how much money do we need? How much investment do we have to make? As an initial company, like a young company, we tended to just put in everything into one basket. So we went through R&D process accordingly. You can see that like this graph shows the recent 3-year budget and spending. We have a history of 7 years, and we built our company back in February or 2016. You can see that for the first 3 years, we spent 130 billion Korean won, and this is not a small amount. And if you look at other spendings as well, we have been spending 150 Korean won, and what we have raised when it comes to capital was 180 billion won. So among the whole business years, the whole history, 84% of the whole budget and capital was poured onto the R&D development. So what does that mean? We just instead of diversifying risks, we put in everything onto R&D. So there were some other comments and ideas about, oh, don't you think you're being too risky? Don't you think you need to do something else to go public and stuff? But we decided to just focus on taking risks because that's the essence and the philosophy of our company. That was the agreement that was made by and between leadership, top leadership. So as a result, there are ABL Bio and other 5 bio companies, and there are different keywords tied to them. Bio, R&D, biotech, antibody, platform technologies. These are the companies that are focusing on these areas. There are companies with 16 years of history, 7 years of history, or like us, 6 years of history. As you can see, in the within the recent 3 years, we spent 130 billion won, and B, they spent about the same amount of money. A, C, D, E, they're not spending that much money for R&D. So if you look at the graph that we have tracked since 2009, look at this graph from 2009 to the end of 2011. The total contract, 2021, the total contract deal size is marked on the graph. Of course, back in 2009, we weren't even there because we were established in 2016. So from 2009, if you look at the accumulative deal sizes, we have 3.3 trillion won, 7 trillion won. Company B, it's about 5 trillion won. And for C, D, and E, compared to their R&D investment size, they are not achieving any results or deals. But on the other hand, that's the total contract deal sizes. But I think what's holding back the most is upfront when it comes to going public. So let's look at the upfront capital. For ABL, we have 107 billion Korean won, including the Sanofi deal that we have made recently. If you add up all the upfront capital, it's a little over 100 billion won. And for company A, it's half the size, B is half the size, and C is also half that B size, and for company D, there's none. So from this, what we can say by interpreting these data is that if we pour and great resources on R&D, you should be able to generate upfront deals. If you are doing enough and abundant R&D by putting all the capital into the research itself, you should be able to get some deal sizes and upfront capital as well. So I think this is the walk and the journey that we have been walking on so far. And as I mentioned briefly, we have a contract with Sanofi. We signed an agreement with them. And to share the content of the contract, even though you've heard of it from the media, the size is about 1.3 trillion won as of today's currency exchange rate. And then the short-term milestone is around 54 billion won. Other milestones are about 1.1 trillion won. So I think this is quite a great deal, to be honest. That's what people say. But at the same time, I don't think our stock price is well representing this value at the moment yet, unfortunately. Even though we have said that we were making a huge scale of investment, and you can see that platform technologies are something that are worth the note. There are many different companies who are working to obtain platform technologies, and we did the same. We have Gravity B, which is focusing on BBB shuttle-based dual antibody, and Gravity T is going to work for 1BB-based dual antibody, and we also have Gravity 1 that's focusing on PDL1-based antibody as well. There are many other pipelines we have. ABL 301 is the one that's licensed out to Sanofi, and we are scheduled to apply for R&D at the end of this year. And there are other candidate materials that are going through clinical phases. CONCAS is going to happen in this year as well. And among the other pipelines we have, ABL 503 was developed jointly with IMAB Biopharma, and we're going through clinical trials in USA, IND, and for 501, we're going through clinical phase 1, and we have already got IND in Korea as well. And this is not the end. We are going to further add other pipelines as well. So what are we going to do next? This is an important factor. And in the future, continuously, we are going to take risks. This is a strategy we will adopt. For this, we need enough resources. And as one of the resources, I would like to share with you our cash reserve. As of October 1st, 2021, we have about 211 billion won, and we also secured more deal milestones from existing deals, which was around 10 billion won. And for ABL 301 near-term milestone, we have also 54 billion coming in. For ABL 301 a contract amount, we have 90 billion lined up as well. So as of January 1st, 2022, if you include everything, a total of 211 billion Korean won is already secured and obtained, and is scheduled to come into our company as well. So I think we are spending about 40 billion every year as our annual budgets and spending. So I believe for the next 5 to 4 years, there will be no issue in spending budgets for our R&D areas as well. So in the future, what are we going to do? That is an important element. So after the deal was made, when I did the NDR process, the same slides were used. So for Gravity B, we looked at many different potentials of this product, and I think there are other applications that we can add on top of what you are looking at on the slide too. So we have first degenerative neural diseases, brain diseases. We have Parkinson's disease, Alzheimer's, and ALS as representative indications. We have Huntington disease as well that can go under this category. And for CNS oncology, because we're focusing on degenerative brain diseases, and we were going to apply Gravity B to come up with treatment, but we can once again think about oncology and neuroscience. We can add this shuttle to brain oncology. And we thought that this could create another opportunity as well. So GBM or breast cancer that could spread to brains could be successfully treated from our Grabody B. That's a potential. And for enzyme-related CNS disorders such as lysosomal storage disorders, this is something where we are carrying out different experiments as well. And aside from these three categories, according to our recent study and research, applicable diseases could be degenerative brain diseases or autoimmune disease or neuromuscular disease, migraines or seizures could be included as well. Neurodevelopmental diseases could be included for the application of Grabody B2. And there are payloads as well that are different from what we have over here, even though it's just staying as an antibody technology as of now. Peptide, small molecule could go and be loaded at Grabody Shuttle 2. So we are now verifying all these options and potentials. So in summation, to effectively utilize the resources we're pouring in, what we need to do is making sure that our product has a strong potential. We're verifying it, and we have also verified a sum. So, given this explanation and background, I want to talk about why we were able to do it. Sorry that the slide is all of a sudden in English. My conclusion is that BBB technology is going to be the hurdle for commercialization for cerebral diseases. So if you look at cerebral pipelines, there are about 700 for phase 1, 700 for phase 2, 300 on clinical stage 3, and there are more than 1,000 clinical trials that are going on for CNS pipelines. And even though there are a number of ongoing clinical studies, you can see that only 8%, less than 8% of these clinical studies pass the criteria and standards. So you can see that all the experts are saying that the reason why it's so low is because they're not passing or meet the standard of BBB. For small molecules, you should be able to penetrate BBB, and less than 2% of them go through small molecules. And for larger molecules, less than 0.1%, 2% would penetrate BBB. So that means the ingredients or the materials are not successfully delivered to the brain itself, and that is why it's causing the failure in the process. That's what specialists have shared with us. And as a very valuable and priceless technology, Grabody B was developed, and we are thinking what should be our next steps. There are many different content here that's written, but we are going to continue to pour resources on R&D, and we will create maximum values. And at the same time, we are going to work with other partners to accept and add more technologies. And the fourth would be proving the efficacy. So this is everything from my side. And before I end my presentation, I would like to summarize what I have said today. I think there's no such thing as a free lunch. And even if you're going to pay the same amount of money, if you want to enjoy lunch, you have to make a wise decision. So what does that mean is all the investors out here, do not stay away from the essence or the basics. You have to look for a company that is focusing on R&D. Please be patient and make a gracious donation to us as well. Thank you very much for your attention. Thank you. That was a presentation by Senior Executive Lee Jae-chun from IBL Bio. And after the IPO, they have been garnering a lot of attention from many different investors. If you go to 300C Hall, you'll be able to talk to them as well because there's a booth. And now let's move on to our next presentation. CEO Kim Hoon-taek from Tium Bio is going to present to you. Ladies and gentlemen, let's give him a big round of applause.
Good to see you, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Kim Won-taek from Tium Bio. It's been a while. It's an honor to introduce my company to you all, and thank you for providing me an opportunity. Thank you all staff members.
오늘 말씀드릴 내용
So today I would like to introduce you the overview and our pipeline, and we will also show you our growth strategy. So our company, it works on rare disease therapy. So by coming up with a treatment for rare diseases, we want to save lives and give hope to those patients. So that is the key of our company. And in order to achieve that goal, we have to create market value and get recognized from the global market. So I would like to categorize the strength of our company into three. First is we focus on increasing our specialty in rare diseases. That is because our chance of succeeding clinical trials and coming up with a treatment is very high. I myself has been engaged in new rare disease treatment for 3 decades. And what shows high efficacy and what can be licensed in the market and what can be commercialized, I think that is the key value. And because in that sense, if we fail so, because the entire process is too long, there must be a lot of failures, and sometimes people would stop their business. So we really wanted to focus on inventing a new drug with efficacy. So based on all the experiences of our staff members, we wanted to invent a new drug. So in that sense, we have 3 different new drug inventing system. First is compound small molecule, and next is gene recomposition, and next is antibody. What matters the most is Tium, a biopharmaceutical company that comes up with a new drug and passes licensing in Korea, the United States, and Japan. If you look for a company who succeeded all in the global market, but we actually do have experience of getting licenses in the overseas market on top of Korea. Well, then this is the pipeline of ours. You must pay a lot of attention to TGF beta and VEGFR2. So we have inhibitory anti-cancer drug. So nowadays the trend of cancer treatment is immunotherapy. That is because it has high efficacy of letting patients to live longer, and anti-PD-L1 medicine is the trend, and it has a high potential of growth. However, it does work in some specific cancer fields. However, the response rate is relatively low, and why? After conducting some research, if you take a look at TGF beta or VEGFR2, the releasing materials when used with Kitro, among others, it has to activate the immune system and attack the tumor. However, it induces inhibitory efficacy, so that decreases the efficacy of cancer treatment. So by using inhibitory anti-cancer drug, we can successfully deliver the administered drug, and by increasing the efficacy, we can successfully attack the cancer cell, and by inhibiting the VEGFR2, so that in order to kill the tumor cell, we can increase the tumor infiltration rate So we have that platform, and this drug itself is actually has this PDL1 and CTLA4 or OX40, among others. And we will significantly increase the currently low response rate. These graphs show our strength, what differentiates us from others. So the interferon gamma is released in the human body to increase the immune system, and it can attack the tumor cell. So this is the key molecule. However, currently my laser pointer doesn't work well, but if you take a look at the PGF meta, the gamma's secretion itself is inhibited. However, when used together with our materials, if you administer it in the human body, then the interferon gamma secretion goes back to the normal stage. However, the anti-TGF beta or antibodies, if you see the efficacy of itself does not have successful rate, but if you compare with other materials, ours show an excellent efficacy. So we secured this system thanks to studying the human body. So in terms of phase 1 and phase 2 clinical trials, we are working on them in Korea and the United States. And we are in the stage of increasing the dosage because we have to decide the dose that we will use in the second trial. And we finished cohort 1 and we safely moved on to cohort 2. So the results of cohort 1 and cohort 2, if we have any academic conference or if there's any official channel opportunity, then I'll be able to share our further results. But the cohort 1 had a very low dose, but we saw a very promising signal. So researchers have achieved a very good result, and we're looking for a partner. So for a combined administration contract. So there are global pharmaceutical companies, so who are working on clinical trials. We are working on tislelizumab and Novartis, and we are working on trials. And why we chose this is the conventional Ketrovav. If we compound our materials with them, probably we'll have higher efficacy. So as a combined administration contract partner, thanks to this partnership, we will have a strategic partnership with tislelizumab. And in terms of phase 1 and trial, we completed it within 1 year. And with combination, we have to work on dose settings. So we are likely to finish that stage in next year. Next pipeline is endometriosis treatment. So this is frequently found in pregnant women, 1 or 2 in 10. So it's a very common disease. Currently, injection-based lifroline brand treatment is done. But one of the severest side effects is that it decreases the female hormone in the women's body, so it is a very severe side effect. And currently, we're working on this oral pill. So this GnRH antagonist helps. So it keeps the women's hormone, so that without have to worry about the hormone issues, you can successfully treat endometriosis treatment. So the GnRH antagonist will lead the trend. And currently in 5 nations in Europe, we're currently working on the second clinical trial, phase 2A. And as you can see on the slide, there are 20 comprehensive research, but currently there is ongoing Ukraine incident, so there was a delay in our research. However, in order to overcome that situation, we reached Poland and Czech. So we have secured 27 treatment sample testes, So already 7 patients finished administrating, and we are listening to consultations of PIs. And since we're taking a randomized approach, we never know who got the real medicine or placebo. But they reportedly said that the pain significantly decreased. So last year and 2 years ago, I said this treatment for sure has efficacy. That is what, because the dose of estradiol has decreased according to our study. So since we secured that result, the efficacy will have no problem. And so far, we have detected no side effect. So we are seeing promising results. Next is the last pipeline I'll introduce you is hemophilia remedy. So this we got licensing, and we uh, invented this in 2017, and we got licensing in later on. So the blood type A, B, among others, in order to treat their hemophilia, we have pipelines in all blood types. The entire market size is about 11 trillion won. And because of the change of the exchange rate, I would say it's almost 14 trillion won. And when it comes to hemophilia type A treatment, is currently we have secured it, and we are also working on biopassing agent to help hemophilia with neutralizing antibiotics. And we increased half-life by 6 to 7-fold, so it's significantly more convenient. As you can see on the graph on the bottom left, the nose-diving graph is the conventional one, but the right ones are ours. So usually, hemophilia patients have to take medication every 2 hours. However, thanks to this, you can increase the efficacy, and it's highly convenient. So we have secured a very successful candidate. So not only in Korea, but we are planning to enter the clinical phase in the second half of this year in overseas as well. And we are planning to finish that. And next is our growth strategy. First of all is Initium Therapeutics. In the year of 2000, we established this in Boston, United States. This is 100% ours. So we have 100% market share. And we are working on immunotherapy and immunological diseases and fibrosis drugs. So we will secure about 3 pipelines by next year, including high-performance single and dual antibody development platform. The reason why we established this branch in Boston is that there are a lot of pharmaceutical companies working in Boston. So there is a very secure ecosystem for biopharmaceutical companies. So we can interact with biopharma companies. So there is a high chance of open innovation. So that meets our vision. So technological transfer, among others, will be easily done. And in terms of pharmaceutical companies in Korea, there are a lot of competitive researchers in Korea. Well, it was really difficult to collaborate with researchers in the United States. Pfizer, Merck, Moderna, among other researchers, were in the United States. So we are in collaboration with those researchers. So those advanced companies' experience and know-how can be shared with our company in Boston. So we are seeking the value of technological transfer. So we are planning to go public in the Nasdaq market by year 2025. In Korea, there are a lot of constraints to go public in the Korean stock market. However, I personally think going public in the United States is relatively easier. Next is May last year, we established Protium Science, and there are a lot of biotech companies and pharmaceutical companies in Korea that want to work on this science. So there is high demand. So if In order to come up with an antibody or cell therapy, you need manufacturing capability, and embedding this capability in a company is really difficult. So, from cell development to test toxicity and manufacturing and clinical trials, are we are based on the strategic partnership with Bio, from cell development to manufacturing. We have CDO, CDMO service. So we established a company that can do from A to Z. And our short-term goal is by year 2025, we showed 2 billion Korean won in the recent years, and we're planning to show 4 billion sales in a year, and later on fourfold of them. And in the end, we were planning to go public in the stock market. Next is what got a lot of attention last summer. We had a strategic partnership with SK Plasma. SK Plasma is a non-public company that work on pharmaceutical. So based on the donated blood, they work on inventing a new drug and manufacturing them and sell them. Not only in Korea, but Middle East or South America or other Asian markets. It is a medical company that sell plasma to overseas market. Why we have a strategic partnership with this company is that we have this common goal, which is inventing hemophilia treatment. So we figured out this company is really good at hemophilia treatment sales. But on the other hand, their weak point was securing a new drug pipeline. So we provide them a pipeline, and they, based on our pipeline, they can work on sales. So biomanufacturing, thanks to our bio platform, we can make use of this non-public company, SK Plasma. We can grow this company later on so that we could go public and get fruitful results, returns in the end. Next, coming up with a new drug. Well, the new drug development field is rapidly changing. After we went public, what we worked on is where can we do better in terms of developing a pipeline? Why don't we create a chip that can conduct efficacy or toxicity level? So we adopted MapsGen's organ on a chip technology, and on the right, microbiome's platform. We went on developing a cryogenic inhibitor, kinase inhibitor. So based on the conventional platform, it was really difficult to select kinase inhibitor specifically. So that's why we are working on propelling a mutual development. The last slide is that developing a new drug is a very specific and special field where it requires collaboration from various fields. So our company has a strength in the discovery field, and in order to strengthen that, through open innovation, we can create a new drug pipeline. And second, with SK Plasma or SK Bio, among other mid-sized or giant biopharmaceutical companies, thanks to collaboration, we will further develop our pipeline or make strategic partnerships which can benefit both. By seeking strategic partnership, we will keep working on our foundation to benefit our partners and us. And one of our former presenters once mentioned about our goal. And like I said, like you never appreciate medicines, but even if it cures you, right? But if you think about it, what really benefits a patient, and if people, the medical sector, provide that, it would help. But I wouldn't be like happy and sad just because of like single daily charts of our stock price. But instead of focusing on the stock price, I'll just purely focus on the efficacy and the value, true value of our company. So based on that, I will keep working on developing new medicine. Thank you. Thank you. It was CEO Kim Huntek of Tium Bio. Thanks to the vision you shared of Tium Bio, we were able to see the driving force of Tium Bio. Well, then let's move on to the next presentation, which will be done by CEO Isujin of Opta Bio. Please welcome her to the stage. So CEO Lee is here. Please welcome her with a big round of applause.
안녕하세요.
Hello, everyone. My name is Isujin, and I'm leading Apta Bio. Thank you very much for your invitation. It is very nice to meet you all. Today, I'm going to talk about what technologies Apta Bio has, what pipelines are being developed, what progress we're making at the moment. So Apta Bio is a company that is going to resolve high unmet needs, which are diabetic complications and side effects, and also rare anti-cancer treatments as well. And we are a new drug development-based company, first-in-class innovation with platform technologies. We have oxidative stress modulation, cancer-associated fibroblast modulation, aptamer drug conjugate as well. We are going to utilize open innovation to come up with first-in-class drugs and medicine. Apta Bio was established back in 2019, and upon the establishment, we have been expanding our pipelines and technologies as well. As a result, we achieved 3 different transfers and was listed on Kosdaq in 2019. And in Europe and the US, we are now going through and expanding clinical trials and global partners, and we further expanded global clinical phases. And currently, we are done with 5 clinical cases, and we're doing 2 non-clinical studies as well. So based on this expedited process, we are now working on 2 global licensing out agreements. So as I mentioned earlier, Apta Bio is working with specialists and professionals and CRO companies. We have a site in the US, Europe, Australia, Japan, and other locations. And we're working with Newcastle University, Delaware University, and other renowned experts and research institutes as well. And what we own in pipeline is 12 different pipelines in total. We are focusing on diabetic nephropathy and oncology as well. And among the 12 pipelines, more than 4 are going through either clinical phase or are done with clinical phase 1. And currently, a new AML MDS pipeline is going to go through initial clinical phase 1 or 2. And I believe that what you're most curious about today is a product with the most amount of progress that we have achieved with. So at this very occasion, I would like to share with you our great clinical results with the audience today. And for COVID-19 ongoing phase 2 and phase 1 is going to be shared with you too. before going into individual pipelines, I would like to briefly talk about our platform, what mechanism we have and what inhibitor we have. So first, it is a platform that adjusts the first-in-class diabetic complication mechanisms with controlling the oxidative stress via NOx inhibitor. There are many different stressors such as viruses or excessive exercise, cancer, high blood pressure, and hypertension. And these NOx series are affecting different multi-organs to cause inflammation or texturalization or cell death or cell increase. And this results in diabetic complications such as diabetes retinopathy or diabetic foot ulcer and other diseases as well. And I believe that the most problematic topic in immuno-oncology is, of course, oxidative stress. This is one of the most important factors that cause oncology. So our products and medicine is targeting NOx so that we can adjust NOx level, and we are capable of detecting NOx adjustment mechanisms. So now I'm going to move on to APTA DC. Of course, this is the first in the world technology, and the benefit of APTA DC technology is to treat rare oncology. We can create host structure for cancer, and I believe that there is an opportunity in the big market for good cancer cell selectivity and good anti-cancer effects through dual mode of action. And we also can create a structure for dual targeting. So as a result, without a linker, you can directly add this to the payload of the existing structure, and the APTA-DC that's loaded will selectively kill cancer cells. And when this goes into the cancer, by the anti-cancer impact, cancer cells are going to die as a result, and the primary treatment can be delivered to cancer cells without any deterrence or resistance. So this can overcome the existing problem of resistance to existing anti-cancer drugs. So, and when it comes to handling and resolving the existing problems of oncology medicine, APTA-DC can successfully handle the issue and avoid resistance. So as I mentioned earlier, we are already doing clinical phase 1 and 2 with APX115, and let me talk about the pipeline more specifically. So for clinical 2 diabetic nephropathy treatment called APX115, this is also called isuzinaxib, and I believe that the main targets and the market are diabetic patients who are going through different symptoms and diseases due to aging society. It is a quite big market. More than 30 to 53% of all patients have diabetic nephropathy, but a relevant treatment has not been developed and invented yet at the moment. So this is a market where we need to target very aggressively. So to share our clinical phase results, we have done it in Europe for both clinical phase 1 and 2. And we gave this medicine for about 12 weeks. And among the total 140 patients, there are 4 who dropped out. And at the end, there were 132 patients who got the medicine. And because we gave or selected patients with no exposure with other medicine or drug, we are going to provide and write a report within the second quarter of this year. And according to the result of clinical phase 2, it is my great honor to share with you this information today. So if you look at the primary endpoint of UACR mean change, UACR mean is a very important marker in diabetic nephropathy. You can see that our mechanism has improved 47%. of the functionalities, and you can see that only patients with 40% of kidney functions and feature showed a meaningful statistics improvement of 47%. And moreover, when it comes to the compliance group, it's quite remarkable as well. Among all patients, statistically meaningful UACR improvement was 20%. From day 1 to day 484 until the end of the treatment period, there was a stable results and reduction that's shown for about 20%. And also, even with kidney feature that are with only 50% or less of functionalities, you can see that 30% of improvement was witnessed. So there was no case in the past where people with such a bad or poor kidney functionality to show a remarkable improvement as our results. So many are quite surprised. And furthermore, because we have great efficacy among significantly ill patients, but at the same time, what's remarkable is that there's no adverse effects that was observed during the clinical study. So you can see that the study confirmed the good safety profile of the product itself. There was no serious adverse effect. There's no any adverse effect that was observed. There was no clinically relevant findings in clinical examination. And so on top of the great efficacy that we have seen, safety is also guaranteed. And furthermore, for biomarkers, tracking is very, very important. During clinical phase 2, there was, this is a process to prove the clinical process itself. And according to our biomarker analysis, KIM1, kidney injury molecule, and Q1, Kibulin are the two important biomarkers. And you can see that for KIM1, 38% of improvement was shown, and Kubulin change was also 50% better. So you can see that our key differentiator is that it's safe and it's effective among seriously ill patients, and biomarkers were successfully tracked as well to prove the point. And now, based on these great results from clinical phase 1 and 2, we have to look at market competitiveness of isozinaxib. I can say for sure that it is targeting a patient group with seriously ill symptoms and sufferings. It's showing great efficacy for those specific targets, and these differentiated patients are going to benefit from isozinaxib. That's the greatest benefit of this product. And on top of this strength, we are safe, and compared to existing medicine, it is a new mechanism, so you can do dual and joint prescription of the different drugs as well. So we can work with AstraZeneca's dapagliflozin that's already released in the market. But as you can see, Bayer's finerenone, which is marked in dark and black over here, this is a very cautiously prescribed medicine, and canagliflozin is a diabetic treatment. But for patients with SGLT2 inhibitor, it's only for patients with mild symptoms and suffering. So isozinaxib is the only and the first medicine that can track and adjust NOX inhibitor with greater efficacy and greater safety that's targeting severely decreased kidney function. So our target group is quite wide compared to other competition. So we are going to continue to go through the POC process after the clinical phases, and we're going to work on dose finding and phase 3 study so that we can launch our product as early as possible in the market. The development process is going to be further expedited. Development is important because we can share the risk, but launch is important. Launch is where you create much margin. So instead of waiting, we are now looking at how we can launch this product as early as possible and what differentiated position we are going to introduce in the market. And Naxib is utilizing strategies that are different from other competition, and the results are proving it too. So technological transfer is going to be considered, development strategies are going to be delivered so that we can not waste our time and then go to the market as fast as possible. So that is our goal. And next, I would like to share with you a COVID-19 treatment that is going through FDA clinical phase 2. It will adjust the level of NOx2 and will cut the move of virus through endosome. And as a result, it could cure long COVID impact as well. It could also cure lung problems that follow after COVID-19, such as inflammation or fibrosis. So it will reduce endosomal ROS and will reduce virus replication and will also hamper the cause and the creation of inflammation. Because they can't come through, the duplication of the virus itself is going to be inhibited. As a result, mutants are less likely to be created and synergetic impacts can be achieved. So in actuality, NOx2 is very, very important when it comes to treating COVID-19. This is actually posted on many different literature and papers. NOx-dependent signaling, dysregulation, and severe COVID-19 is already presented in many different papers and literature. So as a result, Naxib is going to be a promising ingredient for COVID-19 treatments as well. So as a result, we started the clinical phase 1 in 2019. I believe that the result study is going to come out in 2023. Of course, it's difficult to recruit patients and respondents, but we are going to make this successful so that we can dominate the market. And because we have been focusing on long COVID, so we can successfully deal with side effects and symptoms that linger after COVID. That is going to be the approach from our company. And for another product, we are going to apply for clinical phase 2 at US FDA with APX115. I believe that clinical approval is going to come out soon, and because the period for prescription is quite short, the result is going to come out shorter and earlier as well. Next, we have a clinical phase 1 result for APTA16 for blood cancer treatment. That is going on, and as you all know, survival rate is quite low and unmet needs are quite high. And our medicine is going to overcome the existing unmet needs. 2021, we are going to get the approval, and this year we're going to actually carry out clinical studies as well. Now I'm going to go on to APX1004F. Of course, it has a lot of unmet needs. We need a new mechanism, and we also have to make sure that it doesn't affect and respond to existing medicine. And to overcome such unmet needs, we are going to use overall and general application. We got approval last year for clinical studies, and we will continue with the clinical studies in the coming year. So I have shared multiple pipelines so far. I think our key focus right now is that the result of diabetic Presti today. The reason why we were not able to share with you earlier is because this is the data in the final report, and it is definitely a confidential information. So please make sure that you're not sharing this with other people, and please understand that we can't really disclose this information with all the public due to some restraints under the guidelines of clinical study result report system. So thank you very much for giving this opportunity to share our outstanding performance. It was a promising result, and I believe that AptaBio is going to focus on new drug development and new drug pipeline expansion. We're going to work harder continuously so that we can value up our platform and company. And through this, we will also pursue global licensing outs, and while making our products are out and launched in the market. And by working with partnerships, we will expand our area and business value so that as a company, we would like to become a global leader. Please, I would like to ask for your support and interest. What's important is we're steadily growing. And in new drug development, you shouldn't stop until the launch in the market. That's when you make money. That's when you create values. And also will provide benefits to patients. And under this philosophy and approach, we're working, and I would like to ask for your continuous support. Thank you. Thank you very much for your presentation. It was a story on promising new drug development process. And now let's move on to our next and last presentation under the title of Microbiome Global Trends and Licensing Out Strategies. We only have one company left for a presentation. This time, CEO Ji-hyun Ju from Ipsel is going to make the presentation. Ladies and gentlemen, let's give him a big hand.
네, 소개 감사드립니다. 저는 입세
Thank you for the introduction. I'm Ju Ji-hyun, CEO of Ipsel. So we focus on recovery, regenerative, and rejuvenate model. So I'll elaborate about the background and the status. I just rushed from another exhibition room to here, so I feel a bit confused. Sorry for the mess. Well, when here there's a blastocyst period where the egg cell has the stem cell, the embryonic cell. And the stem cells used in the stem cell are mostly adult cells. And from ordinary human bodies, if you put this factor, then there will be cell reprogramming, and it differentiates in a stem cell, which is called the differentiation cell, which won the Nobel Prize. And based on this induced pluripotent stem cell, we work on research. I myself is a internal medicine doctor at Catholic University of Medicine, and I founded this bioventure company in induced stem cell. And all the platforms and stem cells are being done in my company. Through over a decade of research, we completed a Series A, and we won about 15 billion investment, and we are looking forward to moving on to Series B investment. So compared to the first generation stem cell companies, the ingredient changed from MSC to iPSC. So now there are 3D based forms, and there is advanced convergence technology. So in the past, those biopharmaceuticals ones were considered good ones, but recently CAR-T, among other third generation biopharmaceuticals ones, were developed, and we want to take another step from that, which can recognize other human bodies, and it can come up with QC or other approaches. So we're developing in that sense. So when the human body ages, you can your spirit or your physical body would degenerate. However, based on our technology, we can regenerate cells or cover cartilage degeneration. So thanks to this recovery and regeneration, the elderly can enjoy some the younger body compared to the past. So we have research team and research support team, and we just recently entered the licensing step. So we're staffing more members. So there is more demand in clinical trials. So we're strengthening that department. So these are the staff members. We have one or two member each month, so it's difficult to say the entire number of staff members, but I would say approximately 25 researchers are working for us. And I myself is the CEO of this company, as I said, and at the Catholic University, I work as head of Induced Pluripotent Stem Cell Research Institute. So I am fully aware of the characteristics of this technology, so that I am making use of this platform so that it can benefit us. And in the early stage, we got support from the Ministry of Health and Welfare, and we founded our headquarters, and we built another building in Seoul building back in 2020, and we will keep working on expanding our market. And next month, we will move our headquarters to the Omniverse Park in Seoul, Sungmo Hospital, which is our grand plan. So currently, we're focusing on this. So I myself is a specialist in osteoarthritis. So this is our goal, to work on this. And since you can see that this cartilage, if it's degenerated, then in the conventional medicine, they used painkillers, and then you needed artificial junctions. Then it takes about 20 years, but we can't wait for this. So we wanted to create junctions or cartilage based on our stem cell technology. So we're working on developing them. Of course, there were some similar efforts in the past. Like if it suddenly happens in patients, in the past, autoplant technology was used, or graft technology was used, and cartilage or Cronextron, among other medicines, were used. However, nowadays they're recognized as a failure because they showed low efficacy, and scientifically, were they proven to have efficacy? Well, it's not clear to say yes. So the research based treatment in the past, indirectly inducing it to regenerate, was the conventional medicine, but we actually want to directly reproduce cartilage in the human junction. So in order to do so, we wanted to change the material, and let's come up with a new system and new form. That is our key strategy. And in the past, most of the treatment was surgery-based one, but recently, the field is focusing on multiple compound treatment, so that lasts longer than simple surgery. So not only Korea, but the global market is developing and conducting research, and we want to make another step. And I myself, as an internal medicine, not operator, so I wanted to develop a injection form. So we're working on developing that medicine. So this is how it goes. So you activate this biological reaction where you can attract various cells. So it's a very active form. So over the past 6 years, we have conducted various bodies of research to see a reaction and efficacy. And for example, here we created a junctionless animals, and then we injected medicine. When we injected placebo, it didn't show any difference. However, if we actually did inject our medicine, then you were able to see the arthritis induction. And but it was animal test, so we and needed to move on to human bodies. So you can compare the results here. So we are working on seeing the efficacy of human protein regeneration, and we're able to see the humans cartilage regeneration effect. And this is the recent data found from 2 months ago. And here we injected this cartilage regeneration inducer in the pig's body, and about 30% efficacy was found scientifically.
So at the end of the day, the impact and effect we can benefit from is that a cell is going to be activated near the cartilage, and as a result, a different data is being built as well. And as we are working on these matters, we call our product Mucon. This is minimal injectable control space, and I worked very hard, and because our employees and workers have suggested ideas, and we got approval from the FDA as well. There's one data that we are waiting because it takes about 1 year to get the approval. But I believe the biggest fruit we think is that the FDA is now recognizing the perspective of new domain approach. The banking system, QC, and CMC, we learned a lot about the internal process, and based on these findings, we are able to go on and build on to different pipelines. You can see that MCB, WCB, QC is going to be established, QC, CMC are going to be made as well. And iPSC can divert into all kinds of cells. You can create MSC, you can also make INK, and from all the cells from these cells, like secretinome or exosome, we can apply and utilize these further to other businesses and commerces. And I believe this will serve as a great foundation and infrastructure. So cell ingredient platform business is something that we recognized by working with other companies and leaders, and we're realizing that as well. And this is one model where other partners are working on anti-cancer drugs, and they would like to use our Mucon iPSC based NK cell therapy, because we already proved the generation impact. And if you can just take this simply from us, from the latter part of the process, they can use their own structure and technology. And for secretinome or exosome, the cell culture companies are working with us as well, because the material has completeness. If you look at our product, so it's very important and easy for them to get the approval from the FDA side as well. So today, for internal usage, there's cell Alzheimer disease impact and efficacy is being monitored. And currently, because we are focusing on the completeness of the ingredient itself, if you look at the profit model, I think it'll take about 3 to 5 years until we get the benefit. And what we can generate when it comes to margin in between these are these profitable models with other collaboration. We can create iPSC package itself to co-work with other companies, so we can sell this item independently. In the past, we focused on autologous, and I feel like now we are working on allo more. And what we actually want to see is that many different patients' auto IPS banking could be done, targeting all citizens in Korea. That's our final target. And because we're tight in time, let me move on. So currently we're making version 1.0, 2.0, and 3.0 for iPSC. It may seem like it's very complicated, but these are all clinical grade GMP, grade FDA responsible cell strains, depending on how much intervention you're using or how much rejection you're receiving. Different cells are going to be controlled and managed. And these are basic cell lines. And there's also a premium cell line as well. If HLE representation is going to be adjusted so that we can make a premium cell line and launch this next year. And in addition, with IPS, as we are making cartilage cells, we have to go through the MSC stage. Currently, we took MSC from patient and then we put it back on the patient. So it's really hard to commercialize it because we have to make sure that invasive taking had to happen and the amount of the cell MCS was itself very limited. But now we are working on duplicating MSC unlimitedly, so there is low cost and high efficacy, and we should be able to provide this off the shelf by uniforming the quality of the cell. And this is the last part of my presentation. As I shared earlier, we are working on arthritis, and I think the market size is about 4 trillion won. And I believe that cartilage regeneration, alternative medicine market will be around 1 trillion. And I believe that injectable cell therapy is going to be around 64 billion won. So I think we are going to target 33% and then eventually to 1 trillion won. And because so many people are interested in degenerative arthritis, I believe that we should be able to achieve our target quite easily and smoothly. So let me summarize my presentation. These are what we have. These are platform technologies. We create cell culture, cell strain. We adjust gene strains, and we can make universal cell lines. We can facilitate this process by adopting automation. We can utilize AutoCell and Cell Drive Basics with other companies. There is anti-cancer drug cell creation working with other companies as well. So let me move on. So these are our employees. There are about 25 people working with us. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. And that was CEO Jihyun Ju from Ipso. That was the last presentation in the company session. And it was a great opportunity for us to review what promising bio companies in Korea can offer. Not only their technologies, we were able to see the new trends and creative trends as well. So I would like to conclude the 3-day Biokorea Invest Fair as is. Thank you very much for your participation and attendance. Biokorea 2022, you can watch it again on the official website, and the relevant company deck can be downloaded on the official as well. Thank you very much for your active support and interest. So far, the last 3 days were very positive and meaningful and helpful for your future and for the future of the bio industry as well. This wraps today's Invest Fair. Thank you very much for joining us despite your busy schedules. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you once again and have a great rest of the day. This is the conclusion of this year's event. Thank you.